I still remember the sound before I felt the pain. It was sharp. It was loud. A cracking noise, bone hitting tooth. My head snapped back so fast I almost fell. My jaw throbbed instantly, and the taste of blood filled my mouth like warm metal. I could smell coffee and cigarettes even before I saw his face. My dad stood right in front of me. His eyes were hard, and his jaw twitched like he was holding back more anger. "You think you get to keep your paycheck when your sister needs it," he growled. I could feel my knees start to shake. I reached up to touch my mouth and felt something wet. Blood. Warm, sticky, and spreading between my fingers. Then I felt the gap. The front tooth, gone. I wanted to explain. I wanted to tell him I had already paid half of my sister's rent last month. That I had bought her groceries twice. That I had even paid her phone bill. But before I could speak, my mom's voice cut through the air like a knife. "Parasites should learn to obey," she said. She wasn't angry. She was smiling, like she had won some sort of prize. Her eyes moved over me like I was something disgusting she wanted swept away. My sister Melissa was on the couch, legs crossed, scrolling through her phone. She didn't even look at me when she spoke. "Don't get blood on the floor. It's gross." I tried to breathe, but my head was pounding so hard it was all I could hear. "You'll transfer your entire salary by tonight," my dad said, "or I'll make sure you can't work at all." Melissa smirked without looking up. "She's right, Dad. You can't just let parasites think they have rights." They laughed together. It was the kind of laugh people share when they know they've crushed someone. A drop of my blood hit the kitchen tile, bright red against pure white. I turned toward the sink to grab a paper towel, but my mom yanked the roll away. "That's for the guests," she said flatly. I reached under the counter and found an old rag. It smelled like grease and mildew, but I pressed it to my mouth anyway. "You think I'm joking?" my dad said, stepping closer. His shadow fell over me, his voice low and heavy. "I'll call your boss right now and tell him you've been stealing. Let's see how long you keep that job." Tears blurred my vision, but it wasn't the pain in my mouth that hurt the most. It was the humiliation. Melissa laughed again. "Tell him she's unstable too. No one wants to hire a drama queen." I straightened my back even though my whole body shook. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. I wanted them to feel even a fraction of what I felt. But I knew better. They fed on reactions. They wanted me to break. So instead, I looked straight at my dad and said quietly, "You'll regret this." His eyes narrowed. A vein in his temple pulsed. "You're already regretting it," he said, tapping his tooth in mockery. My mom shook her head. "You've always thought you were smarter than us. But you're nothing without family. Remember that." Melissa set her phone down. "Actually, let's make this easy. Give me your banking password. I'll transfer it myself." I stared at her. "You've lost your mind," I said. She leaned forward. "No. You've lost your place in this family, and it's about to get worse if you keep talking." I turned and walked slowly out of the kitchen, my hand pressed to my jaw. "Don't be late with that transfer," my dad called after me. Their laughter followed me down the hallway, sharp and cold, like nails down my spine. I locked myself in my bedroom and slid down to the floor. The mirror on my dresser caught my reflection, swollen lip, missing tooth, eyes red with rage. I touched the empty space in my mouth and felt something new grow inside me. It wasn't just pain. It was a quiet, burning clarity. For years they had taken my money, my time, my dignity, and called it family duty. For years I had told myself that if I gave enough, they would see my worth. But tonight, with my tooth shattered on the kitchen tile, I finally understood. They would never stop. Not unless I made them. And I wasn't going to fight them with fists or screams. I was going to make them choke on something they couldn't spit out. I picked up my phone and opened a blank note. Slowly, I typed the first pieces of a plan. My hands were shaking, but it wasn't from fear anymore. I didn't sleep that night. The pounding in my jaw kept time with the ideas in my head. I lay in the dark, replaying every insult, every laugh, every time they had called me a burden. By morning, the pain in my mouth was background noise. The sharp focus in my mind was all I could feel. When I walked into the kitchen the next day, my dad sat at the table with his coffee, Melissa was in her robe, scrolling her phone, and my mom was frying eggs like nothing had happened. "Well," my dad said without looking up. "Transfer go through yet?" I didn't answer. I put my bag on the counter, grabbed my keys, and headed for the door. "You're not leaving without paying up," he barked. I turned just enough to meet his eyes. "You'll get what's coming." He laughed. My mom smirked. She's finally learning to threaten like family. I drove to work, but not to clock in. I had been there long enough to know exactly how things ran. I knew where files were kept, who owed who, and who owed me. One man in particular owed me more than one favor, Trent, a coworker I had saved from losing his job 3 years earlier. When I told Trent what had happened, his eyes went wide. "That's insane. But I think I can help you." He leaned closer. "You know that system you've been building? The one you never showed anyone? It's good. Really good. But if you want it to be yours forever, we can make sure your name's on it in a way they can't touch." He was right. It was mine, a system that could save our biggest client time and money. If it worked, it would be worth more than my yearly salary. And if my parents found out, they would bleed it dry. That afternoon, I filed the intellectual property rights under my name, not the company's. That was step 1. Step 2 was personal. I started digging. They loved to brag about their spotless image, but I knew the truth. The unpaid debts. The fake charity donations. Melissa's habit of using other people's credit cards. I had proof. Emails. Receipts. Photos. At home, they thought I was quiet because I was scared. That made them bolder. Melissa waved shopping bags in my face and said, "This is what your money's for." My mom dropped my empty bank balance into conversations like it was a joke. My dad patted my shoulder and whispered, "Better get used to it, parasite." I played along. I even sent them small amounts of money to keep them confident. Meanwhile, I was building something they couldn't see. 3 weeks later, my plan was ready. I wasn't just going to expose them, that was too easy. I was going to take away the one thing they loved more than my money, their control. It started with Melissa. She had an exclusive fashion event coming up, her chance at a big modeling contract. She bragged about it for weeks. I didn't cancel it. I just made sure that by the time she arrived, her name would be the last one they wanted on their guest list. Then came my parents. They were hosting a dinner for the local business association, the event they had been hyping for months. It was the perfect stage. And by the time that night came, every cruel word they had ever said to me, every dirty secret they had hidden, would be in the hands of the people they most wanted to impress. When I looked in the mirror that morning, I still saw the missing tooth. But my eyes belonged to someone new, someone who had stopped obeying. The night of the dinner, the house smelled like expensive catering. My mom wore pearls. My dad wore a suit he couldn't afford. Melissa floated around in her designer dress. "You're not invited," my mom said without turning her head. "I wouldn't miss it," I replied. They thought I had come to beg. They were wrong. The room filled with guests. My dad's handshakes were fake. My mom's compliments were performances. Melissa live-streamed her outfit. Then I saw him, Mr. Kevin, the association president. And in his hand was the envelope I had sent. Inside, unpaid bills, proof of charity fraud, audio of their cruelty. He didn't approach them right away. He waited until everyone was there. Then he handed my dad the envelope. My dad's face went pale. My mom's pearls trembled. Melissa stopped laughing. Whispers spread. Keller's voice cut through the room. Your name doesn't belong on our board, Tom. Not after this. I slipped out quietly, meeting Trent across the street. From the cafe window, we watched as guests left in clusters. Melissa came out first, crying. She had just been told the fashion event was full. My parents followed, tie loose, lipstick smudged, no pearls. For the first time, they weren't the center of attention. I stepped outside, heels clicking on the pavement. My mom opened her mouth but said nothing. My dad's voice cracked, You. I held up my phone. On the screen, a picture of my broken tooth from the night he hit me. Underneath, this is where it started. I didn't yell. I didn't need to. I looked at them the way they had always looked at me, like they weren't worth the air they breathed. Then I walked past them. By the time I turned the corner, I could hear my mom's voice hissing at my dad. It didn't matter. Their perfect world had cracked. And every time they remembered, they would think of the night they laughed in my face, and the parasite they thought they owned finally bit back. That night, after it was all over, I sat in my small apartment. The city outside was loud, but my heart was quiet. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was drowning. I didn't feel like the little girl trapped in that cold house anymore. I felt free. I thought about all the times I cried alone in the dark, wondering why my own parents hated me so much. I thought about the nights they made me sleep next to that dog, while my sister laughed and my parents joined in. I remembered the smell, the cold floor, the way I wished I could disappear. But now? Now they were the ones who couldn't sleep. They were the ones who would wake up at night, sweating, thinking about what they lost. They had spent years trying to break me, but in the end, I was the one who walked away whole. People think revenge is about shouting, breaking things, or fighting back in the moment. But real revenge is quiet. It's when you rise so high that they can never touch you again. It's when they're left with nothing but the memory of how badly they underestimated you. I didn't have to scream. I didn't have to throw anything. I simply made sure the truth came out, and then I let life do the rest. The truth is, walking away was harder than the revenge itself. Because a part of me still wanted to go back and ask them, why? Why did you do that to me? What did I ever do to deserve it? But deep down, I already knew they would never give me an answer that made sense. Some people don't hurt you because you're bad. They hurt you because they're broken. And my parents? They were broken long before I was born. I could have stayed angry forever. I could have let the hate eat me alive. But I decided that my life was worth more than the pain they gave me. My story wasn't going to end with me being their victim. So I worked. I studied. I built myself up until I had more than they could ever take from me. And when I was ready, I made my move. I was no longer the little girl crying in the dark, I was a woman who built her own light. My revenge wasn't about hurting them. It was about showing them I could live, succeed, and be happy without them. That night they laughed at me will stay in their minds forever, but it no longer hurts me. Please like and subscribe for more videos, also comment where you're watching from.